All right, back on with the next question, which comes from my neck of the woods, Jamie Eldridge. Good evening, Jamie, via WhatsApp. Do you think, when guesting, some riders don't race to their full potential to keep their average down for their current team? So, Jamie, I'm not quite sure why you're asking the question, but it is a good question. Although I think I might know the answer, and I'm going to go to a man who should know the answer, Simon Lambert. Does Jamie have a point?
No. No. When you do a guest booking, this is the way I look at it. I look at it as it's an extra meeting. It's extra time on my bike. I enjoy riding my bike, so it's extra enjoyment. If you go and you put on a good performance, if unfortunately they need a guest, obviously for an injury or whatever circumstance further down the line, and you've given it 110% and you've got 7 or 8 points, you'll be the first call next time. When you guest, you can perhaps ask for a little bit more money because people want you and they ring you for a reason. Two ends of the scale. If you're first, you ask for more, and if you're down the pecking order, you ask for more because they're obviously desperate. But it does not affect your average in any way. All it does is boost the rider's bank balance, and they knocked the rule on the head, didn't they? Some riders were asking for big guarantees and getting them all, and they weren't really trying, and I think a lot of promoters got burnt by that. So they knocked that on the head. No guarantees, it's just points money. It is what it is. Like I say, we're self-employed, we get paid what we score. So no, it's always nice to get a guest booking at a track you really favour and you go well at, than taking a guest booking at, say, somewhere like Plymouth where not that many people fancy going. But you just go, you do your best, and it's got nothing to do with your average whatsoever, mate.
Thank you, Simon. So, Jamie, if you have, or you suspect that you've seen guest riders not quite being themselves when they're guesting for a team, that's not in any way, shape or form intentional to lower or protect their average. Nigel, just to Simon's point, as a former rider, guest bookings, Nigel, an opportunity to earn a few more quid, right?
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100% with what Simon says. Everything Simon said was right. You guest somebody and you shape yourself and do right, and you give 100%, score a few points, there's every chance they'll ring you again. I think you covered on this last week, a week before. I did quite a bit for Middlesbrough 1 year guessing for them, and it was brilliant. But I can tell you a little bit of a story about riders keeping their average down. When I was finishing at all, I don't know, you'll all remember, I'm sure, Bobby Ott that used to ride from Bellevue and what have you, the American, he kept riding for us. And all Bobby, I got on fine with Bobby. He was a bit of a wild character and a funny bloke. I don't mean funny as in laughing neither. Bit of a queer bloke, but I got on okay with him, probably because I'm a bit of a queer bloke, I don't know. But Bobby, they always used to reckon he kept his average down at all because he always getting guest bookings every week, and he'd always bang big scores in or get another guest booking. But when he'd come to all, and it might be right to a degree, he did play with his average to keep it right for getting his guest bookings. Whether 100% through that or not, I don't know. But like Simon says, when you're guesting for somebody, it doesn't affect your average. The only thing it does is try and earn a shilling to keep everything going. And you do good, you might get another one. That's the idea of it, I think.
Carol, I can't help but thinking, I'm thinking of the opening question tonight from Stephen in Glasgow, and Stephen was just trying to get his head round the concept of riders having more than one club, right? But the guest facility in Speedway is a bit alien. You can't really think of too many other sports where teams borrow team player or players from other clubs, and the guest booking system in Speedway is a bit unique in that regard, right?
Yeah, it is, and again, it goes back to obviously having 7 rider teams rather than squads like they had in Poland, that you can bring somebody in. So yeah, it is a bit foreign in that to other sports. You wouldn't bring if you're Manchester United, you wouldn't go and bring in the striker from Liverpool to go and play for you midweek, would you? It wouldn't be allowed, and it just wouldn't happen. So yeah, it is unique. It's unique to this sport.
A necessary evil, though, Carl. Given the rigours and the pitfalls of injuries in speedway, it's seen as being a necessary evil, I think, right?
Yeah, obviously people don't like it. You talk to people, and it's sort of 50-50. People don't like, guest bookings. People don't like to see other riders in your team, but it's a necessity in speedway because of what it is. Because, like you say, the injuries. If riders are riding abroad, you get that facility. But for the rider that's taken that guest booking, it's a bonus. We've had it, and I've certainly done it. 2 riders that really stood out for me that we had guest bookings with was Brady Kurtz and Ryan Douglas. Now, Brady Kurtz and Ryan Douglas, they come in, we knew they could ride Peterborough track so well, and I used them pretty much every home meeting for, I think Brady done like 10 or 12 meetings for us one season. He done as many nearly as what our own riders did as a guest at number 1 for us, because he done so well. So if you get a rider come in, if it was Simon come in for me at reserve and he had a good meeting, I'd use him the next meeting as well, because you get to know and understand the riders, and you get to rely on some of them. You know who are trying, you know who are not, you know who will give 110%. So you tend to use them. You put faith in them, they put faith in you to use them again, and that's what it's about. And Brady and Ryan both become part of the team at times, and which was good. But obviously, the crowd then react to him as a Peterborough rider after a while. So that was good for us. But yeah, we've had some dead rubbers come and guest ride for us, so that we never called back.
So I guess it's like a horses for courses policy, right? You can pick riders who are going to do a job for you on any given track, home or away. Jamie, hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight around the use and the whys and the wherefores of the guest system. But to your point, Jamie, it doesn't influence riders' average. It's purely down to earnings, and to Simon's point, it gives that rider an opportunity not only to earn a bit more, but to be recalled potentially for future guest bookings. Thank you, Jamie. All right, we're still sticking in Glasgow. There's been quite a few questions that have come in from Glasgow, I'm pleased to say. This one by email. Colin Simpkins, who said hello to me at Glasgow on Friday night. Good to speak to you, Colin. Would you prefer, an interesting question, would you prefer a one-off British final, or have, for example, a 4 or 5 round series on various tracks to determine the British Championship? And Colin identifies the flaw that an engine failure or a fall in the one-off meeting, and you're done for the night effectively. An interesting concept, I think. Nigel, let's come to you first. A one-off British final or a 3, 4, 5 round series over the course of a season?
Well, going back in time, you probably had to do 4 or 5 rounds just to get to the British final. So, I don't know, the one-off British final is good, isn't it? It's all decided on the night, it's all very tense and everything else. I think it's good. It's like saying, should the World Championship be like it used to be on one night, or is it the Grand Prix or the best round? I think it's everybody to their own opinion on this. I think the one-off British final on the night with the top 16 riders, I think it's fine. There is, I don't know. I don't think it's run particularly on the right night, but they get bigger crowds maybe later on in the weekend. But I'm sure a one-off British final, it does get very tense, doesn't it? There's a good meeting at Bellevue this year.
It was.
For me, a one-off, but I'm maybe old-fashioned. I don't know, but a one-off, I do like it.
There we are. One vote to retain the current structure from Mr. Crabtree. Mr. Lambert, what about yourself from a rider's perspective? You've been in a few British finals, Simon, which is an impressive thing to look back on. I'm sure you'll agree. The one-off occasion, Simon, or would you rather do a sort of GP type approach?
Well, I don't have enough meetings, so I'm going to say the more the better if you're in it. But then you've got to maybe this is one that you should get a bit of a poll going on. Should Robert Lambert be allowed to ride in it? It's British Speedway, he's a British rider. I like the kid, got nothing against him at all. He's world class, but why should he get a wild card if I'm sure every team in the league tried to sign him at the start of the year, but he just said no, so why come for that one meeting? Do you know where I'm coming from or not?
Yes.
Like,
No,
everyone
I
has their
disagree
own
with you
thought.
there, Simon. Disagree with you.
Usually, okay, he didn't win this year, but Bellevue, you'd put an each way bet on it with your house most years, wouldn't you? But then where would you have the other rounds? That's the problem. There's nowhere got the facilities for it as such. I mean, call me biased, whatever. Scunny, brilliant racetrack. Passing, there's more passing there in one meeting than there probably is at Poole all year. But that would be brilliant. It'd be good for the town and everything. Glasgow, you know, that's come from being a dump, to be fair, to being a top stadium in all divisions. Do a 3 or 4. It's all politics in it. And the problem is, what happens if you did a 3 or 4 series, let's say, and the leader got injured? You know, you've got Robert, Dan, Brennan, all them, they're racing Poland, Sweden, Britain. Their risk of injury is more than somebody like mine riding 4 or 5 times a month. Do you know what I'm saying? If they got injured and had to miss a round, then what? I don't know. Pros and cons to it all in there, but maybe it'd just be nice. I perhaps agree with Richard Lawson a little bit. Obviously, he didn't ride in it this year because he thinks it's a bit of a farce, but maybe over 2 or 3 rounds, you know.
Yeah.
Do 3 rounds. Just do 3 rounds, spread it all over the country, north, south and Midlands.
Yeah, and interesting, Simon. Carol, you know, to Colin's question and to the points that Simon and Crabby have covered already, but you know, it's a British final, or it's a national championship, right? So you would want surely to ensure that the winner is the genuinely most talented rider, if that makes sense. And to Simon's point about Robert Lambert, right? You know, there's undoubtedly he's possibly the top British rider in world speedway. So you know, I can understand why Robert would have been invited, or there would be some insistence that Robert took part in the championship. But where's your head's at?
Yeah, I agree with both, to be fair. I think a multi-round British final would be better. But also, okay, include Robert into that. He's a pull, he's a draw card. He's going to put bums on seats. That's what British Speedway wants. Yes, he doesn't ride in the UK, so I'm behind Simon with that. Why should somebody that's riding in Poland, you know, Denmark and Sweden, then come and do one-off meeting in the UK, the British final? It's yes, he's a British rider, but he's not riding in Great Britain at the minute. But yeah, put him in a 3 round if that's the case. He might have an off night at Glasgow, or he might have an off night at, you know, we touched on this the other week about the Bellevue. I said if Scott Nicholls if the British final was at Leicester or at Glasgow, Scott Nicholls would have been 8, 9, 10 times British champion. Because it's gone to Bellevue, it's a track that doesn't favour him. It's not a track that he likes. He's never going to put any more British titles onto his name. Whereas I think if you split it up, put it in three different tracks, 3 different shapes, that, you know, like a Glasgow, Bellevue, say Poole, obviously it would have been ideal, you know, Swindon or Peterborough being in there, Coventry, you know, Wolverhampton being in there, put them in there, and then, you know, they're on 3 different tracks. Anything can happen on them nights. We know a Dan Bewley's not probably as good round a Wolverhampton or a Glasgow, you know, but it'll bring the northern supporters to watch. It'll bring the people from Manchester or the Midlands to watch. It'll bring people from, you know, the south to watch. If it's somewhere like Poole or wherever it may be, you know, rather than just one. Look at the crowd at the British final this year. It was too early in the season for one thing. But look at the crowd. The crowd was terrible. This is a British final. The crowd was awful. Now, I don't know if that was cost because of the night it was run on, but that's not good enough for British Speedway. You can't pan round the stadium and half the stadium seats are empty. It's ridiculous. You know, it's a British final. I know people are sitting at home watching it, but you want bums on seats.
Yeah.
You know, you want an atmosphere. Simon will agree. You, as a rider, you want an atmosphere in the stadium. Doesn't matter who's riding, you need that atmosphere. And, you know, we know what the Larry Glasgowesians are like. You know, get them up there. They'll be shouting and screaming, you know, alongside the Berwick fans, you know, and the Red Car boys. So, you know, I think three rounds would be brilliant. Why decide it on one night?
Yeah. So, Colin, you might be onto something, Colin Simpkins. You've got us thinking, and who knows who might watch this discussion, Colin Simpkins. I know we've got some.
Maybe they should have like a qualification round as well. For like, you're always going to get your Brennans, Bewleys, Roberts. You know, seed like maybe the top 5 or 6, but then have like a 3-round qualification, like with different rounds again around the country for your lesser riders up to say like your Danny Kings.
Yeah.
Like so you've got new blood in it, new faces in it. Like,
I like it.
Instead of like the same 12 names every year. Do you know what I'm saying?
That used to be the case, Simon. I can remember doing 3 rounds to get to the semi-finals, 2 semi-finals, and then the final. Yeah, that's how it used to be.
Well, I remember one year, I think they did a round at Scunny and a round at Redcar, and it was like so much hype. I think Scotty Nichols is coming to, this is before he dropped from the top league, like to do double up. Scotty Nichols is coming to Scunny or to Redcar. Like everyone was talking, everybody knew the name, you know, 7-time British champion and that. It drew the crowd in. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like put a young blood, like local boy in it as well. Like I say, just give him a chance. Like even if you did a mini knockout series early season to knock a few out, to then do a qualification where you did 2 or 3 meetings and like the top 8 qualified. Like it just gives everybody a go at it.
Mm. See, Colin, these guys have got all the answers, right? I'm excluding myself from this, but these guys know what they're talking about. Colin, thanks for the question. Let's move on to the next one. I'm sticking in Glasgow. Can I just emphasise, I have not incentivised anyone to mail in questions from Glasgow, I promise. Colin Mackay, who I do happen to know, good evening, Colin. Why don't we have an all-UK team 4-team tournament? The 4-team tournament was a great competition, a return of the regional qualifiers to not just a one-off grand final as became the case in more recent years. Nigel, I'm going to come to you first because I've got to confess, thinking back to, you know, the previous decades, etc., there used to be qualifying sections, a Northern qualifiers, a Midlands qualifying section, and all that good stuff. And only the group winners from memory ever got to Peterborough for the big finals day. But the 4-team tournament as a concept, as a format, Nigel, was always one that I really enjoyed, and having read lots of comments over the many months and years from Speedway fans who are much the same age as me, it's a miss on the fixture calendar.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was good. The 4 rounds, and you say the winner went through to the final, which was at Peterborough. And when I was at Stoke, it used to happen every year. I think I don't know, Peterborough, Boston, maybe I don't know who else, Stoke. But yeah, there was 4 rounds that winner went through. I believe the reason they stopped the 4-team tournament qualifying rounds, as well as there aren't enough teams now to do it, but the cost, because very expensive competition to run, because each home club had to fund 3 away meetings out of that one home round. So I believe that was one of the main reasons for stopping it. The finances didn't add up.
That makes sense, Nigel, and you're right. I have heard that argument, I guess. And Carol Johnson, just to bring you in, I don't know if you've got any insight, Carol, into what Krabby's just said, but it would make sense, right? The promotions have got to effectively fund 3 away meetings worth and only getting 1 home meeting to try and cover the cost of that.
Yeah, obviously when they had the rounds, that was just as I was really coming into into Speedway. I still remember it when I was sort of like 16, 17, that they was just, it was just finishing at that time. So I've always been involved at Peterborough when it was like basically we had 8 teams in for the day, and 2 groups, and the top 2 qualify then for the final. So I remember sitting in the stands and being around the qualifiers. But yeah, it was a case of your home round basically paid for the three legs, but for your riders, mind. So yeah, it did sort of cover it. And I think at one point, I think they tried to do, each club had to pay for that meeting, that they had to pay every rider for that meeting. So the meeting at Peterborough had to pay for all the riders. And then if it went to Mildenhall, they had to pay for the whole riders. And there was a bit of, well, they didn't pay on time and these didn't pay on time. So it was a case of, well, we'll go back to you pay your own riders, which is, happened in the league as well. So, it's all financial rather than anything else. But obviously now there's not enough teams to have the qualifying rounds, because, obviously you want the Premiership teams wouldn't be in it unless you've done a Premiership round. But then you still haven't got enough teams. So yeah, it's I think the fours, obviously for us at Peterborough, was fantastic. One of the best days of the season, one of the biggest crowds. We did do a 2-day weekend at Peterborough, and that was it was unbelievable. We had camping, we had everything. It was the entertainment was brilliant, and I wish we'd kept it going, but obviously,
I remember when we won it, we were underdogs.
We was indeed, yeah, with missing riders for different reasons. But yeah, it was we was underdogs. Yeah, Simon stepped up and come in there, and we pulled it off. 2017 that was.
Any of those trophies behind you, Carol? Any of those fours trophies?
Yeah. Two of them are the fours trophies. Yeah. I think it's I think the end 2, each end, they're the 2 fours trophies. So yeah, but we was underdogs, and obviously that was 17, and then in 18 they decided to move it to Redcar, because of a bit of controversy with obviously Jed Rathbone being at the club, and they took it away from us, and we went up to Redcar and turned everyone over again. So it was doubly pleasing, but I loved the fours. It was brilliant. Yeah, it was brilliant. And,
sorry, Carol.
It gives some of the riders that we had their first ever trophies.
Yeah. So Simon, from a rider's perspective, did you enjoy the fours format, Simon? So you're out on track every time. You don't have a teammate, a partner. You're out there representing the club and having to do it for yourself.
Yeah, of course, because at the end of the day, I think you had a bit more pressure on your shoulders, because I think if I remember right, the format was was it 2? You got 2 rides. You all got 2 rides, and if you all did rubbish, you just bikes in the van, see you later. Whereas some riders obviously travelling from, say, Scotland to Peterborough, 6 hours, 2 rides, it's 2 minutes of fun, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But I think you put that bit more in because obviously you wanted to progress as a team, and I think it was a fair. I know at Peterborough we all did it. It was wherever you come, you split 5 ways. But the year we won it at Peterborough, I was part of it. There was only 4 of us, so that was a bit of a Brucey bonus. But yeah, no, it was great. Like you say, the camping and that. You try to go get a hotel now somewhere. Speedway's expensive enough, let's say, as it is. And then the cost of fuel's gone up over the last sort of 5-10 years. And then a hotel, people camping and that. It was a good thing, but maybe 9 teams from the championship do a round at a top track, and the seven teams in the Premiership do a round at a championship track. Do you know what I mean? It's neutral as such.
Yeah, it could. So yeah, Colin Mackay, thanks for the question. You've got us thinking about the 4-team tournament. It's a format that we don't see very often these days. perhaps only restricted to testimonials. Puck had his testimonial last year, if I remember correctly, and it was a 4-team tournament-based format. Who's to say, we're only restricted by our imagination, I like to say, in life, and who's to say that in the fullness of time that Speedway can't reinvent the 4-team tournament format in some shape or form. But thanks for your questions, Colin.